Hello.
Every new Canadian Prime Minister has to be convinced that the name of the Vice President isn't making fun of them.
Oh no.
For context, because as funny as it is that this be done without context, I feel like we need to add it. I was just mentioning that in this coffee shop AU, because we're doing the Mo School for Gifted Youth campaign this evening. Hello, everyone, and welcome. There is a strong possibility that Monty has been elected president, with A being vice president. 70.8%. Thanks for taking the poll. Thank you, Alexa.
What is that background noise? Oh.
Who is someone? Siri or Cortana is talking?
Yes, I accidentally bumped it. I stopped it.
Oh, okay.
If I've never been upset by hearing Minecraft sounds in the background, I'm not going to be upset by that. That remains my statement.
He wants to play too.
There are many assistants that you can ask to pick a random number between 1 and 20. I mean, it's a thing. You can do it. But Ellie found out that we can make the numbers that we ask Foundry to roll also be randomized. And we are burdened with this terrible knowledge because I then rolled a 1D 1509, which was selected randomly. I love this. Anyway, hello and welcome to Mo School for Gifted Youth. We weren't playing an other game tonight, so we're playing this one campaign, which is, I like to call it a coffee shop AU, because one, Trajectory has literally served coffee, and in the last arc, which might be the current arc once removed, there was a coffee shop as well where everyone was very chill. So, coffee shops, canon. Therefore, this is an AU that has a coffee shop. It's a coffee shop AU. I am technically correct. The best kind. So I am told.
QED.
Which essentially means that while there can be recurring characters, they are not the same characters. They do not have the same background knowledge. There may be similarities. Because, yeah. The only character who I'm going to say has knowledge of other AUs is Kevin, and you haven't met him yet because I'm being kind and generous. But regardless, what happens
just saying
here...
that there's no stays here. There is, however, no guarantee that someone won't get isekai'd.
If they do, they will be isekai'd into another AU that still does not affect the other campaigns. I want this to be its own little bubble universe where we can be silly without having to worry about repercussions.
This just means that if anyone gets hit by Truck-kun in one of the other games and they show up here, they could, in fact, know about other dimensions. It could be an isekai for them.
Unfortunately, Truck-kun attempted to isekai Quartz.
Crunch.
And ended up in another AU.
Truck-kun.
Yes.
Quartz isekai Truck-kun.
They woke up in a world where everyone was from another world.
I think that's a... I'm sure that's a plot of one of them.
And Truck-kun had met them all before, vaguely remembering them, until Truck-kun went, oh no. Oh no.
These are all the ones you've hit before. To all the PCs I've hit before, who now are knocking at my door.
Cut to an idyllic scene of a forest with, gentle sounds of birds chirping and the sounds of hundreds and hundreds of people getting their revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that is not tonight's game. But if it was, it would be an AU, not affecting the other campaigns. Tonight, I am joined by a bunch of awesome people, including Beth, Ellie, and Io. My name is Crash. I'll be your GM for the evening. This recording is now just over 5 minutes in, and we haven't even done the recap yet. So, what happened last time?
I asked them not to do what they did.
To be fair,
Take your XP, Io. I don't know why it's hitting me like that, but take your XP.
Thank you.
To be fair, Felim didn't want to trash all of the cure whatever for the superpowers. Felim just wanted to trash most of it so they would have to prioritize
I'm just going to point out that an
Stringently.
unreliable narrator is a literary technique.
Mm-hmm.
What else occurred?
We punched an academic.
To be fair, he was kind of asking for it.
Also, he had armor on.
He did have armor on. A lot of armor.
So punching him wasn't like that horrible.
You have some power shifts involved. So I have to throw someone who's level 8 against your party in order for them to be any kind of threat. And he was still defeated by the power of hugs.
I mean,
Granted, it was Andra Storm giving him the hug from behind so that his arms were pinned and punches were possible.
with super strength. Mhm.
Yeah. And then two of you went over. Well, there was a retrieval effort done by drones under the direction of Mo. And they said, hey, we're going to work out what this cure thing is and see if we can like give this to people if necessary or whatever. There was some argument about whether or not it should be given to people unwillingly if you want to cure the whole town of superpowers.
The impression that Felim got was that everyone who had gotten superpowers via the mad scientist drink was going to be decured just sort of quietly on the sly to make it all go away.
Well,
If
that
this
was
was not what
certainly
Mo and
that was certainly what Associate Professor whatever his name was, whose notes are no longer in
Yes.
my current document.
And
wanted
it
to
did
do.
sound like Mo was going along with the government who wanted to do the same thing. So Felim objected. And if this
Mo
was not the
was-
case, I'm sorry. It's Mo's fault for not conveying it more clearly.
Mo was very adamant that a decision about that was not being made yet because there were other stakeholders involved that were not Mo and had not yet been consulted, which was taken as, so you're going to administer the cure.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes. So two of you went over to press buttons. And two of you rolled for
Indeed.
pressing buttons. And the numbers were very different.
Yeah.
Yes. So one of the things that happened was that you were surrounded by a vapor coming from the machine that was supposed to be filled with the cure, which was really weird that you could squeeze a whole band in there, but that's besides the point. The aerosolized band was spread out around you. It was very creepy. And we ended the session there.
With
Because
concerns.
cliffhangers are fun. All right. And I just realized I didn't need that window open, which means I can go and grab this window and have this open. And aha! I can see my notes now. I can see clearly now. The notes are there. I can see all the obstacles in your way. But you can't. You're surrounded by mist.
Felim is trying to hold their breath.
Well, you attempt to hold your breath. I'm not going to make a roll for this because for as long as you are attempting to hold your breath is perhaps a bit longer than you probably should be able to. One of you is made of stone and might be able to argue that breathing is not as important for you as it is for others. However, with the mist thing, you can kind of sort of see shapes around you of, okay, well, that's quartz over there. That's trajectory over there. No, over there. No, over. But trajectory is in the vicinity. That small shadow there is probably Felim.
I'm going to have to be towed out of the vicinity.
I was trying
Like
to
a
find a way
stuck
of working that in, but thank you. Take your XP. Because I don't care if you get to level 6 quick. This is a fun game where I don't care about long-term plots, except that we've stumbled into a long-term plot. But those shadows that you kind of see through the mist, they fade to white, and you feel a little lightheaded. Yes, even quartz. Something is seeping in through your stone skin. Apparently, stone is occasionally permeable, depending on what we're talking about. Limestone's a thing, after all. And as you come to, you realize that you were unconscious. Well, you must have been, because you're coming to. You don't remember falling asleep. You are surrounded by what appears to be very large straw. Well, except for you, Felim. Felim, this is normal straw. You are on top of it. It is around you. It is above you. You are buried in it.
What?
How's it taste?
Like straw that someone's been sleeping in.
So normal.
Yes. No nutritional value. It's the hay that would have the nutritional value in this case. This is more clearly for betting purposes.
And
I
snacking.
think that someone received a straw summoning superpower.
Munch, 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 munch.
Okay, well, the munch, munch, munch sounds are clearly coming from Felim, who appears to be a very large capybara, like around the same size as you. And when I say the same size as you, I'm talking to both Quartz and Trajectory.
Felim, why are you enormous?
Blink,
Felim,
blink.
a giant
Here.
crab covered in crystalline formations has asked you why you're enormous.
Tilt head. Put paw overhead to indicate height. Am I very tall? Peer at straw. Hold up straw. Peer at crab.
You are
Tilt
exactly one Felim tall, Felim.
Yes. And the straw is a normal size for me, right?
Straw isn't always the same length. You could have pulled the short straw.
But, thickness and whatnot.
You're not alone in this pile of hay. There also appears to be a bird next to you as well. It's a weird bird. The feathers kind of look like they've got lightning-shaped streaks in them. Actually, yeah, you know this kind of bird. It's a roadrunner.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. Quartz attempts to tilt their head.
Your torso tilts because you are crab.
Yes.
You embody carcinization. By the way, I am not changing your stats. Your stats are exactly as they are in your character sheets. It's just that Quartz is now crab. Trajectory is now roadrunner. All of your abilities and ciphers are still accessible right now, but you are clearly not you are in a different package.
You made me a crab because they're a shelled creature with grippy claws, huh?
I mean, it's kind of on the nose, yes.
Yes.
Also,
Quartz
Trajectory
clenches
Roadrunner.
their
Same
claws
reason.
in alarm.
Now, it's worth noting, Felim, you 100% understood what the crab was asking you.
Ah, a talking crab.
Everyone heard Felim say, "Ah, a talking crab."
Felim is not used to being understood by other people.
Congratulations, you are seen and heard.
No!
I'm not supposed to be a crab. I'm supposed to be Quartz.
Oh.
Trajectory, what are you
dear.
doing right now?
Beep, beep.
Maybe
High five! High five!
By the way, I recently learned, it was reiterated to me again today, but I recently learned that the whole idea of the Roadrunner never being able to be caught by the coyote is only because of the cartoons. A coyote's top speed is twice that of the average Roadrunner.
Wily Coyote
But this
was
is not an average Roadrunner.
right.
No,
and I'm not
it
sure
was
that
a
Wile E.
giant
Coyote
Roadrunner.
was an average. Yeah. and I mean, Wiley may have put all of his points into int instead of speed.
And Trajectory is definitely not an average Roadrunner.
There are two species of Roadrunner, the larger of which is roughly 2 feet long if you include the incredibly long tail. So, kinda, sorta on scale with a capybara, depending on how you measure. And Roadrunners do not go beep beep, but because apparently you are all able to talk and understand each other, it is 100% believable that Trajectory would say beep beep.
Mm-hmm. I mean, player high five.
Like the dog from Discworld who went woof because they could talk and forgot how to bark.
Fair. Very fair.
I have so many legs. How do I use all of these legs? Which one do I move first?
So, your ability to walk is kind of like my ability to touch type. If you are trying to think about how you are doing it, you can't do it. If you think, I want to go over there, you just walk there.
Yes, it's the centipede's dilemma.
I used to love the Coyote and Roadrunner cartoons, so I am I will not interject hijinks. I will not interject hijinks. I'm so going to want to do that. But I'm not giving you a coyote. You hear
We
a
don't have a
high
coyote to
pitched.
kick around.
You hear a high pitched squeaky voice going, "Ah, you're awake! You're awake! Hello, hello! New friends, new friends! It's
Blink.
1 second, 1 second. I mean, I hear you talking. I saw the movement, but there's a lot of movement in the hay as something is trying to climb up and over, but apparently the hay is it's at that awkward amount where it is not load bearing enough to allow this individual to get up on top of the hay and stay there. However, they are not heavy enough to get it to do what they want. All you see is a pointy hat slowly working its way towards you above the hay.
Felim knows hay pretty well. I mean, Felim generally prefers to be in a cat bed, but Felim has had hay beds as well. Time to start digging. Dig, dig,
Okay.
dig,
You dig your way
dig. Oh,
until you are nose to nose with a small mouse wearing a pointy hat that appears to be made out of scraps of fabric and leather pinned together. Someone has taken ink and written the word wizard in all capital letters on the hat, and also drawn a few stars and moons on there to boot.
hello.
Hello! It is so nice to meet you. I was really worried. You've been out for like a day and a half. I'm assuming my magic brought you here.
Mimi,
Blink.
Is your friend okay?
I believe it is a reference.
Oh, I don't know what that is, so I'm just going to ignore that for now. Hello, I'm Mousewind the Wizard. Nice to meet you.
Hello. Why are they not humanoids?
I don't understand the question.
I wasn't a crab yesterday.
Oh,
Mimi,
oh, that's probably the wild magic. It's a mixed blessing. I mean, it made me a powerful wizard, but it also makes hideous monsters sometimes.
Felim will pat Quartz very gently on the shell.
But hey, it made you a cool. What did you call yourself again? A crab? Whatever that is. Cool.
Quartz is a crab.
Clack, clack, clack.
Quartz. What a wonderful
And-
name. Nice to meet you, Quartz. And who are the other two?
This is Trajectory.
Hello.
Trajectory is a roadrunner because Trajectory is a speedster.
Ah, I'm going to assume that means you go very, very fast. That's a useful skill. You can try to outrun the wild magic. Don't. But you could try. But you probably shouldn't.
Why not?
Well, it's better to just not be near it when it comes.
That's what speedsters do.
Okay. And you are?
Not be near things. Oh, I'm Felim. I am the
wonderful.
mascot.
I don't know what that is. But welcome. Welcome to the
Oh,
land
dear.
of the giants.
I'm not sure that there is a proper GIF anywhere for Felim doing a level stare that is somehow trying to convey the impression of the eyebrow up emoji.
I'm just going to picture Spock.
Yes, except without actually lifting an eyebrow. Just sort of look.
Well, to
One
do it
ear
properly, you have to
twitches
turn your
prop-
head so that we see one eye. Because, not a predator.
Yeah.
Eyes on side of head.
True.
I mean, it is what we call it. The people who build most things here are, really, really tall. So, giants. Anyway, I think you'll like it here. If you choose to stay. Some people don't. Some people show up and then leave again. Some people keep coming back. Some people come back different than how they left.
Mimi,
You cast a spell.
Well, this time I didn't consciously cast a spell, but my magic does let me move people. Yes.
You needed people.
Well, come to think of it, I could use some help, but I wasn't actively seeking people out. Anyway, my
If
magic
you need
mostly
help, we will help.
wonderful. Now I'm getting a sense, because I rolled really well on an intellect roll, that you don't actually want to be here.
I have a job elsewhere, but
Ah.
I don't
if
know
we're
where
here,
here is.
It's the land of the giants. It's I already mentioned that, but okay, you've heard it again. So I
I don't know
propose
where that is.
it's here. Look, I'm a mouse. This place is bigger than I've ever traveled in my
Yes.
life. So is what it is. So I propose a deal. You help me out with a few things that I cannot do myself because mouse, and I'll use my magic to send you home because that's literally the only thing my magic does. I could send people to what they believe is home. Nothing else. I'm trying to learn a second spell. It's not going very well, but I can do that one thing. It's how I got here. That was an accident, sorta, kinda. Well, it was an intentional accident.
Felim puts their head down and says, "Here, climb on top, then you can see which way to steer us out of the hay bed."
Oh, okay. You are now a capybara-shaped horse.
Well, I mean, Felim was kind of figuring that a mouse was just going to sit on their head because...
Well, yes. That is the case. And Mousewind does do the whole circle around twice thing and then settle in. Well, you want to be low to the surface because you do want stability, especially when you're riding a capybara.
Uh-huh.
There might be a sudden head movement. You don't know. So, long story made kind of shorter, but not really. I'm going to leave that character voice behind briefly to explain in fewer words than Mousewind uses.
Uh-huh.
With, believe it or not, fewer digressions. Although I will use the word fewer and interpret that as you wish. So, Mousewind was just a wild mouse. They acquired their sapience through the wild magic. None of the other mice they've encountered have acquired the same thing. Usually they're just turned into something that kills them instantly, or they're turned into a monster, or they're eaten by a monster that something else was turned into. But he became a wizard, so good for him.
Great.
Yes. So he was, going around through the woods, deathly afraid of wild magic and all that entails. And they encountered a giant. A baby giant. Clearly a baby giant because it was smaller than the other giants. And it was crying. It was sad. It was lost. So they used their magic and teleported the baby giant home. They have no idea where they were before is. So they can't go back to where all their stuff was, but that's okay, because here is better. Here there isn't wild magic. And there's so much stuff to do and chew on and eat and explore and chew on and learn about.
They went with the baby?
They went with the baby. They were on top of the baby's shoulder when they used their magic, and they both went. Apparently, they don't need to be on top of somebody. They don't need to be in physical contact with somebody to teleport them. But if they are, they go with them. They have used this ability before. It does wear them out, but they can do it. This baby, they refer to as the architect, because clearly their building skills are unsurpassed. They built Mousewind a wizard tower. Also, this cool hat they're wearing.
Oh.
Mousewind doesn't have a strong sense for humans and timelines of age and growing. They just assume baby because smaller, because mouse babies are smaller than full-grown mice. Your sense is that this human that they really like hanging out with is not a baby, because some of the things they describe this human doing are clearly not toddler skill level. But if you ask leading questions about, okay, but what about this, what about that? Very frequently, Mousewind does not understand the questions. They did not have a formal
We should
education.
probably meet baby.
Well, helping the baby, or the architect, depending on what sentence is being said at the time, is
Baby
exactly the help that Mousewind needs, because Mousewind insists that the architect is not well treated by the larger giants, as evidenced by how often the architect cries. Clearly, it's a bad sound that one does when displeased. So clearly, the architect is being mistreated. It could definitely not be because they want something that they've been told they can't have, or have a bedtime that they don't like, or whatever. Yes. And in the traveling through what appears to be something of a tent city, I mean, you think you see some tall buildings over there, but maybe it's you got a bad sense of perspective with your current heights to tell for sure. But most people in this area appear to be living and working out of tents or pavilions or something like that. When you are led to where the child is, they do look like they are probably a preteen, but they're out of the toddler phase. Their exact age is hard to tell for sure. They might have been undernourished at some point and therefore be smaller than their actual age would be. They are not currently crying. They are currently working on adding an addition onto a small tower that they've built out of sticks and scrap lumber and stuff. The tower appears to have been repaired several times, and they appear to be trying to add a wall to one side as if to make the tower part of a larger castle. They are very intent on this, you can tell, because they are currently sticking their tongue out the side of their mouth as they are carefully pushing a twig in through the side of the tower. Yeah,
Felim sits down to patiently wait.
So I was hoping that you could get 3 things for me and, bring them here so the architect could see that they're here and they can have them. So the first is, like, the sun during the day, it gets really bright. I mean, for me, the sun is bright regardless. But even for the giants, it gets really bright. Sometimes their skin turns red, which is a little weird. I didn't know they did that at first, but okay. Well, there's this bearded giant that has this wide thing stuck to their head that I thought it was just like a really weird hairstyle, but it's made of straw. And sometimes they take it off. So, like, they get distracted easily.
It's a hat.
I don't know what that is.
Your hat. You are wearing a hat. It says wizard.
Well,
it is a different kind of hat.
But it's not made of straw.
No, but they are both hats.
It doesn't really block the sun too much. But that big straw hat, that would be great. And that bearded giant, not like that beard, and Mousewind points at some random person walking by that has a beard. It's like really big, and I think there's things growing out of it. But they're easily distracted, so you could probably just go and take the hat when they have that off their head at some point and they're distracted.
Won't the architect get in trouble?
Well, the architect isn't taking it.
But if they wear it, won't they get in trouble?
Well, the bearded giant is, he's frequently not here. He's here now, but he leaves for like weeks at a time. Maybe he'll get a better hat.
Trajectory?
Mm.
Do you think we should try to make a hat?
Mm.
Do I need to get you a sign?
Trajectory is gesturing with the beakful of straw that she has.
I love that I have made it clear that you can all talk and understand each other. And Ellie is pointedly having Trajectory only play to the bit. I love this.
Felim is exhausted. They are having to talk to people to understand them. This is exhausting. Usually they are the one doing this. And it can't hear me chortling.
Oh no, I've heard that.
Yes, you heard that one, but for some reason why I just chuckle, it doesn't pick it up. It's terrible. I'm just going to fix my settings.
While you're thinking about hat solutions, the architect likes to doodle designs. They like to plan things out, but they tend to just like draw them in the dirt and then somebody steps on it or it rains or whatever. They need one of those big things with the leaves in it that they're all like lighter colored, like leaves covered in snow or something. Anyway, I see people make marks in those with like the same stuff that was used on my hat.
Paper.
Is that what it's called? By the way, at this point, there have been enough people walking around. You are being pointedly ignored. Not that they're not being obvious where they're saying to themselves, I understand that there's a capybara, crab, and roadrunner over here, and I'm going to pretend that I'm not seeing them. It's like you're not being noticed at all. There's enough weird things going on in this town that you are not even being, like, you are nowhere near the point where you would end up on their radar. There's a lot of conversation happening around you. You do not understand any of the words being said by any denizen of this town other than Mousewind. Okay, there's a couple oxen over there that you also understand, but their conversation is boring. Also, I like the idea that Ellie is pointing out in chat where trajectory keeps disappearing and returning with more straw.
Amy,
Trajectory is set for a nest or a hat?
is Mousewind still on Felim's head? Felim, however you pronounce it.
Feeling, yeah.
I would say that once you get to where the architect is, Mousewind does crawl down.
Okay. Felim would not have minded if Mousewind stayed on their head. They're kind of used to having things on their head. It makes everybody amused.
Trajectory jumps onto Felim's head, looks down at Felim, like right between the eyes, Mimi, and then jumps back down.
Hat. Got it. Right. Who knows how to weave a hat?
Because I auto-remove silences, I am pointing out at this point that there was no conversation at all after that question was asked.
Trajectory spreads her wings out, looks annoyed, and then runs off for more straw.
Maybe if we offer to help someone else, we can buy a hat?
I've never
Other
heard that
hats
word before.
should exist. To exchange one thing of perceived value for another thing that you perceive has value. Look, Felim goes to all these classes, okay?
Oh, you mean like when I have a bit of food that I don't quite like as much, so I leave that and then grab the tastier food?
No. Close, but no. The person with the tastier food has to agree to make the trade.
The person can't understand me. None of them use words.
That's a problem.
They try very hard to use words, but you're hearing them. They like to think they understand each other. It's cute.
They're using human words and we just don't understand the language.
I mean, that's a competing theory. Well,
I have
if
been
you're-
around humans a long time.
if you're going to help with the paper thing, there's a horned giant that likes to hang out with the one with the straw hat. Sometimes they've got like whole bunches of that stuff stuck together, and lots of them are blank because they keep writing in one of those bunches, which means there's space for them to be writing in those bunches. So they might have a spare one of those things that we could give the architect, and then they'd be able to put their castle plans in that and build me a better tower.
If we could write, we could communicate.
Not necessarily. If they don't speak the language we understand.
We could draw.
I can make the thumbs. Probably.
And,
Felim lifts a paw.
well, there's 3 of you, so I'm going to ask a third favor. 1 favor per person I'm sending home. As you can see, the architect is, rather malnourished. They don't get a lot of food. When they ask for the smallest little morsel of wrapped up food that doesn't even taste that good, when there's all that tasty bread that they could eat, they're told no, or I assume no, because they then start crying and they don't get the food. So,
Maybe it's not good for them.
are you saying it might be poisoned?
There are many things that cannot be eaten in large amounts or else someone will get very unhappy. Like if the cats get too much milk. It may taste good going in.
There is
but-
a wizard hat, a wizard hat on the ground in front of you, and a cowering mouse curled
Here,
up
you
and
may hide
shuddering
between.
underneath quartz.
They are not here. But if they drink milk, They like it very much, but then they do not like what happens in the litter box afterwards. It is possible that whatever is wrapped up would make the small human very upset in the litter box later, even if it tasted good on the input end.
A tiny mouse paw
There are no
extends from underneath Quartz and reaches out and grabs just the edge of the brim of the hat, because it can only reach the edge of the brim of the hat, and slowly pulls it under Quartz. And then a somewhat more dignified postured Mousewind steps out from under Quartz as if he meant to do that the entire time. He does this while you're
Pats
talking.
him on the shoulder.
He nods at you. So, well, I think I know a source of food that isn't poison. There's an older giant that hangs out with those other two. I think she's the boss. She does a lot of yelling, mostly at the bearded one. And it kind of looks like that they take her orders. It's hard to tell for sure with these people. But she has this big bag that she has all kinds of stuff in. And after she yells at someone, she usually pulls something out of the bag and gives it to them, and they'll eat it or put it in water and drink it or something like that. And they seem to not mind this. So if you get me some of whatever's in that bag, it's probably good for the architect.
We will evaluate what is in the bag.
Mimi,
If it is, yes. Let's work on hat.
Well, if they have it left, the bearded giant is usually off in that direction. There is a gesture. Usually pretending to say a lot of things to a bunch of people who just sit there and stare at him.
A storyteller.
Felim, I think we should solve this problem like you.
By sighing at people until they've realized that what they are doing is counterproductive?
Take your XP!
Oh, is that what you were doing? I thought you were looking cute at people until they helped you.
That too. That is also useful. What if we bring all the straw and convince them to make another hat?
Exactly.
Half of the current wall being assembled by the architect is now made of straw, by the way. It was a nearby resource.
Quartz is going to go scuttling off towards the human who has the hat.
Felim will try to take some of the straw that Trajectory has been bringing and go after Quartz, somewhat concernedly, because Quartz might look like a edible or decorative creature and humans. Trajectory can take care of herself because Trajectory is very fast.
I imagine for large portions of this conversation, it wasn't that you saw Trajectory leaving and coming back with straw. It's that you blinked and Trajectory had more straw in her mouth.
No. Trajectory has straw in her beak. There's Trajectory without straw in her beak. There's a bigger pile. There's Trajectory again. Yeah, like that.
And fortunately for the animators, the pile of straw is not changing size in any way, because as Trajectory is delivering the straw, the architect is using it. The rate is equal to the in-go and the out-go. And thank you, Ellie, for coming up with that. I only embellished it slightly. The plot was Ellie's to make. All right.
Mimi,
It's not getting old. It is not getting old at all. I teach my elementary kids programming, and today I was telling them what a loop is. So I asked them, what's a loop? And they told me it's an action that happens over and over again. And then I asked them what a loop was, and they told me it was an action that happened over and over again. So I asked them what a loop was.
And they cracked up?
Well, this was a younger group, so it wasn't until I said, that will not get old for me, but we only have an hour together, so we need to continue, that they realized I was joking. Mostly because it is a common education technique to have them say something 3 or 4 times as a way of letting them know this is an important thing you need to know. However,
Ah,
yes. So it was something they'd encountered before, but then they realized, oh, wait. Oh, I get it. All right.
it's a new version.
Yes. So I'm going to give you, we're going to have a roll for the first time tonight. Roll to not get lost on your way to finding the bearded giant.
Okay. What is this roll going to be?
It's going to be an intellect roll, but beyond that, you have to talk me down from having it be difficulty 4. Difficulty 4 because
Applying
you're in a
effort.
location you've never been before, and the person leading the charge is smaller than they've ever been. And now they're even smaller, and now they're even... No, wait, no, that's the They Might Be Giant song. Never mind.
I have navigation skill.
Okay.
What
You
does
successfully determine that Quartz is going the wrong way. Not entirely the wrong way.
Trajectory has reconnaissance.
Mimi,
I can beat a 4?
Okay. Everyone but Quartz knows that Quartz is going the wrong way.
Felim. No, Trajectory's going to catch up first, I'm sure, if Trajectory feels like doing so, but Felim will attempt to catch up in order to steer the crab.
One of you on one side of Quartz, one of you on the other side of Quartz, and you both turned at the same time, forcing Quartz to turn.
Quartz, why don't you grab some straw and then you can sit on my hat with straw in your claws. Sit on my head with straw in your claws. Perhaps this will help get the idea across.
All right. That seems like a good idea.
All right. Well,
Trajectory, you
arrive-
can hand some straw to Quartz, right?
Mimi,
Thank you.
okay. You successfully find where the bearded giant is sitting. They're on a log that looks like it's just wrong enough that you're not going to be able to split it with an axe. So it might as well be a chair to sit on. And they have a collection of people around them. It appears to be mostly children. The smallest of the children is still way larger than any of you. But they are listening intently as the bearded giant, who is wearing a shoddy, very stained, grimy bathrobe and a straw hat that appears to be more holes than straw. They are saying, Eagle beagle, flibbity gibbet, bingle bangle boongle, bing bing bing, flurgin blurgin burgin burgin, boink boink boink.
Wow, 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 wow.
It would probably be more comforting if they were in fact talking like an adult from a Charlie Brown cartoon. Instead, he is clearly enunciating words that you recognize them as make-up words and a significant amount of automatopoeia. Also, he mostly seems to be talking with a voice kind of like this.
Yeah,
Flippity
we know it's
gibbets.
old Rob.
Yeah.
I mean, I was not attempting to
that.
hide it at all.
You were not.
No. If you didn't immediately go, oh, that's old Rob, when I talked about the bearded giant with the straw hat that's easily distracted, then I don't know what to tell you.
It could have been another version of the trope, but now we've got the bathrobe, so that's obvious. Once you got to the part about talking to other people who listened, then that became very probable, though.
I appreciate the one moment in chat where EO just posted, is working very hard not to lose it. That made my evening.
Yes. I would, however, like to note that what is wandering in is a capybara with a crab on its head, and the crab has...
A crystalline crab on its head.
Yes, a crystalline crab on its head that is clutching straw in both sets of claws, no doubt, and the capybara also has straw in its mouth.
I'm not
And I don't
sure
know-
about this grittier reenactment of the Brementown musicians.
It says we're gritty. Except possibly the hockey mascot.
Quartz stretches up and waves the straw around.
My silence is because I'm thinking of what to do. What to ask you to do, specifically. So you're stretching up and waving the straw around, trying to get old Rob's attention?
Yes.
Give me an intellect roll. This will also be difficulty 4 to distract the storyteller.
Does this count as an attempt at pleasant social interaction, putting someone at ease, or gaining trust?
Yes, I would say it is definitely one or more of those.
And I will spend a level of effort.
Okay. That's a 10, which with the level of effort and the asset you got from your skill is a success. So, in what apparently is, you guess, mid-sentence, the storyteller stops their story and looks over at a crab on top of a capybara and briefly a roadrunner delivering more straw.
Maybe.
Ah! Googleplex! And we've been playing for a little over an hour. What do you say we take a short break? We're back. And there is a crab sitting on top of a capybara's head, waving straw around, while a bearded older fellow, who very clearly has things stuck in his beard, you can see it at this distance, wearing a wide-brimmed straw hat, surrounded by children, all of you are surrounded by children, not just the straw hat, is staring pointedly at you. Quartz, what's going through your head right now?
Quartz is kind of confused about the whole thing, but they're pretty sure that they can communicate this somehow. After all, Felim communicates with all of them perfectly well most of the time. And they are determined to find a solution that is actually a solution and not a mouse wizard solution. They know
Okay.
Mousewind is doing his best, but
So you are trying to find a solution that is not a Mousewind solution, but a solution to what problem?
they need a hat.
Give me a d20 roll. Technically, this is an intellect roll, but I just want to see what the number is. That is a GM intrusion.
Oh no.
It's like, well, there's only one possible way this could go poorly.
And you found it.
And you found it.
Oops.
So, Quartz, you are normally a very tall being made of stone.
Mm-hmm.
You are used to being seen because
Mm-hmm.
when you are a very tall being made of stone, who is not always allowed on the second floor or a ground floor that has a basement, it's kind of hard to not be seen unless someone is looking on the second floor or first floor with a basement.
Mm-hmm.
You're not sure you've ever been more seen right now as a small crab with crystalline formations on your carapace. Like, this old man is staring at you, and you feel like he really, really sees you. And it's uncomfortable because you can always just be stoic.
Quartz droops.
Give me a speed defense roll. Difficulty 4. A 20. Well, hello. In your drooping, the problem that occurred was you were drooping while riding the head of a capybara, not known for being the widest of platforms, even if a great platform for oranges, if all the gifs are to be believed.
Yes.
And you are not in your factory model body right now. So there is some sliding that's involved. With a 20, how do you not wind up on your back with your little legs kicking, flailing frantically?
Hmm.
And tell me how Felim is helping with this. Beth, I'm pulling you into this also. And then you both get an XP because GM intrusion from the Nat 1.
I would argue that Quartz does flip over, but that the crystalline structures are not really conducive to ending up stuck on their back.
Oh my gosh, you are a mud crab model from Skyrim.
You do not have a flat top. Also, I just want it noted, Felim has balancing skill. And my fingers have bad finger macros. There we are.
I would require a roll from Felim as well, but you can't really provide much of an asset to somebody who's rolled a nat 20.
True. True.
So we're just going to go with that. So you manage to shift your head in a way where it just provides a slight bit of additional momentum so that Quartz lands on back, but then continues to flip over and be on the ground, right side up, as if you meant to do that. You are, in
Like
fact,
a
the
cat.
cat who decided to get off the sofa at that moment where it looked like they were actually just rolling off of it by accident. Ha! Oingo boingo. Wang chum. Shamba wamba. None of this makes any sense to you.
Quartz points at the pointy crystalline top of their shell and waves the straw around and points at the storyteller's hat.
The storyteller takes their hat off of their head and goes to put it on top of Quartz and then looks at the size difference and moves it over and puts it on top of Felim instead. Otherwise,
On top
you would
of-
just be a hat that is moving around on the ground, which would be adorable. Monty would agree. Monty has done this on several occasions just for the reaction. But Monty has a hat of holding. This is just a straw hat. But congratulations, Felim. You are now wearing a wide-brimmed straw hat. That does not affect your vision at all because there's enough holes in the conical portion of the hat that your eyes can see through.
Felim sits in a very prim and pleased manner and carefully inclines their head in a dignified thank you.
The storyteller nods, possibly having used a recently acquired ability to read surface thoughts to have gathered enough seeds for some very odd stories that will be told in the future. That are
Quartz
certainly 100% true.
Little crab dance.
Quartz
Quartz
does a
does a
crab.
little crab dance in thank you.
Tune in to the next Plus Ultra game where somebody gains an asset in reverse isekai truck gun.
Like
Okay,
crab
I don't-
dancing.
Driving out of this. Crab rave.
All right, so congratulations, you have completed 1/3 of your mission.
Let us return the hat to the small child who may, with all of the straw that might be left or provided, well, we'll leave the straw as an offering to the former hat person, but we will take this straw to the small child.
Okay. Anyone who cares to, give me an intellect roll, difficulty 5. This is involving perceiving things.
Perceiving things, huh?
This roll is not necessary, but make it if you choose to. 14 will be difficulty 4, but
No,
you are...
I am wearing a
practiced.
hat with holes in it. I perceive nothing.
Oh, well, your roll was another nat 1. Critical failure, congratulations.
Yes, it was.
On a roll you didn't have to make.
It's the hat. It's the hat.
Trajectory has noticed,
Made it.
and so has Quartz. So Quartz and Trajectory, what you see is as you are trundling off, and by trundling I mean the other two are trundling. Trajectory, you don't trundle. I'm not sure you have ever trundled. I'm not entirely sure you know how to. And if you did, you wouldn't understand the point of it. Trundling is for other people. Just before you get out of line of sight with the storyteller, they seem to have pulled out an identical straw hat. Almost identical. The holes are in slightly different places. and place that on their head. They had a spare.
Dun dun dun. Makes sense.
However, Felim, you are wearing a straw hat that is apparently hindering your vision a bit more than you thought it would. It was doing great
Obviously,
for a while.
it shifted.
Yeah, it shifted a little bit clockwise, and now those holes that you were peering through are not lined up with your eyes. How does this make you
Bit of a
go
nuisance.
astray?
Bonk. Actually, no, probably not a bonk. I'm probably going to trip over something, somehow, and land on the ground, on my chin, with a hat over my head, and my rump will go up in a most undignified ka-thump before all of me goes ka-thump.
All right. Best case scenario, that
Maybe-
is exactly what's going to happen. What's that?
BB.
Maybe
Felim, you do trip. You trip over a tablecloth, which is kind of
Oh, no.
redundant, that was draped over top of a table, which is, I guess, also redundant, that was covered with items for sale. It was perhaps coming
Oh,
down
no.
a little bit further in the front than the shopkeep wanted it to, but they hadn't noticed it had shifted. As you're walking past, you walk a little bit too close to it. So, give me a speed defense roll, difficulty 4, to not mangle the magician's trick of pulling the tablecloth out while everything remains on the table.
Speed defense, you say?
Yes. Is there someone who wants to assist with this somehow?
yes.
How do you help?
I grab the tablecloth in my beak and yank.
The other direction? To keep it steady?
No, the same direction to amplify the tug.
Oh. Speed defense roll, difficulty 3.
I should note that my speed defense is eased by 1 step per shift, and I have 2 shifts of it.
Okay, then you got to roll higher than a 3 on the die. Well, 3 or higher, technically, because you brought it down to difficulty 1.
So, okay.
And that's an 11 on the die.
11!
Congratulations. You have successfully deep tableclothed a shopkeep's table and landed upside down with your butt in the air, the hat upside down. And there's a bit of a commotion. The shopkeep storms out from around the table. You're half wrapped up in the tablecloth, but all of the items on the table are right where they were before. They have not budged.
Trajectory is standing next to Felim, but not under the tablecloth. And not on the tablecloth, just there. Mimi,
The shopkeep is yelling nonsense words at you, specifically the capybara with a hat.
The capybara with the hat will mutter under their breath, "Quick, grab the hat and make a getaway. I will look cute at them."
They continue to yell at you, but you're leaving the tablecloth behind, and they have a shop to run, so they don't chase after you. Felim and Trajectory both take your XP for the GM intrusion.
Okay. Someone
Because
better go back for quartz.
I'm assuming Quartz has been following along for this.
Quartz is following.
Yeah. Because unless you tell me I'm going off in a different direction, I'm assuming you're sticking together for this.
Quartz is scuttling along.
Okay. Possibly
Scuttle,
sideways.
scuttle.
Possibly
as-
sideways.
So as the shopkeep continues to mutter nonsense words to themselves and go back behind their table, they look out and at the various customers that are not lining up because it's been a slow day, and they just see a crab walking sideways past them, staring directly at them the entire time. Eye contact not breaking.
It's one of those days.
They forget to stop. They forget to continue mumbling nonsense words at themselves. Okay, so you are returning to the architect and Mousewind with a straw hat.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
You got the hat! Wonderful!
We traded straw for it. And also, there was permission.
Permission? You can speak with the giants?
Not yet. But the giant put the hat on my head. So it was clearly permission.
We
Huh.
figured out how to ask for the hat.
Mimi,
Well, now we just need to convince the architect to put the hat on their head.
Hmm.
Mousewind is somewhat concerned by the total silence that happened after that, which the listeners won't hear because, again, silences are automatically removed.
Hey, I went,
Well, yes, but after that there was silence.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
That's because Felim is thinking silently.
No socket. I don't believe you can help convince the architect to wear a straw hat with holes in it. Because you would chew through the hat.
That's a cat.
Or you'd claw it to pieces. You do both. Let's be honest, you do both. And
Yep.
then I'd find the straw in your litter box.
Yep. Or worse, not in the litter box.
Let's also be honest, it would be both.
Yep.
Okay.
Felim is just going to walk over wearing the hat and sit down next to the architect.
They, in the time you've been gone, appear to have completed not another tower, but enough wall sections that they currently have a bit of a irregular, lopsided loop of walls. It's somewhat modular. It looks like they would be able to tear it apart in places and put it back together again. Not instantaneously. This is not Legos, but it looks like it could theoretically be possible. After a moment, they turn and look at the capybara, as one tends to do when there's a capybara sitting there. They stare.
Capybara gravely inclines head sufficiently that the hat will slide off.
They stare at the hat. They pick it up.
Stand up, wander off.
They look at the hat. They look at the underside of the hat. They hold the hat up above their head and then place it on the loop of wall structure to create a roof. I mean, it's not actually what I wanted, but who's going to argue with an architect?
Long silence.
All right. You have 2 other portions of this quest to complete. Getting a book and getting a snack.
Dun, dun, dun.
And please do not arm Quartz with a knife. I beg of you. Quartz does not require a knife. Quartz is a weapon.
This is probably less dangerous with a knife.
Knives were tossed at Quartz before. In a kitchen. They were not effective.
In fact, I am looking at my sheet and I can confirm quartz is less dangerous if you give them a knife.
Yeah. Watch out for punching.
Look out! The stone giant has a knife! Oh, thank goodness they have a knife.
Good. It could be worse.
I saw Eo's microphone light up. And no sound came out.
It was probably because I looked at the air filter I'm sitting next to.
Well, that's less amusing than my headcanon. What?
But it will suffice.
What quest are you attempting next?
Book or snack? Evaluate the architect's current state. Do they look like they need a snack?
They do appear to be a rather thin child, but their focus seems to be entirely on assembling whatever structure this is turning into. With the addition of the hat, it's looking a lot less like a castle and more like somebody got carried away trying to repair a straw hat.
Oh.
Is this a physical task?
Depending on the size of the book, there's going to need to be some effort in carrying it.
I'm just wondering if Felim should be spending a little time using enable others for the building the castle part, since it's 9:30.
Now people will know what time we were recording. It's okay. It's okay. They don't know we're recording on January 31st. Wait.
And you can always trim that out if you want. You won't want.
I refuse.
You don't care. I know.
I will pointedly leave that in. Like how I leave in every time that I mention that we cut something, but not what we cut.
You don't. But not what it was.
Exactly.
That would then you'd have to cut that as well, and that'd get recursive.
Well, there is some discussion going on about how it is getting a little bit late, but I, the GM, would still like to know what is the task you wish to attempt next. Is it book or snack? There was mention of book, but I didn't hear any kind of accordance. I don't think that's the right
Book
word.
is probably easier.
Okay. Well,
we don't have to ascertain whether the book is safe.
That.
Quartz assumes.
You know what assumptions will get you.
As Quartz verbally makes this suggestion, there is a sudden peal of thunder where everyone involuntarily flinches because it's one of those bits of thunder where you feel it as it goes through the atmosphere. You all look up. There is not a cloud in the sky.
Quartz doesn't look up. Quartz looks at trajectory.
Mimi,
But of course, Trajectory is the one who makes thunder.
Trajectory does not appear to have suddenly traveled in a straight line.
Yes, but how would we know?
There would be a dust cloud. Roadrunner, remember?
There is that possibility.
Well, I think that is where we will end it for tonight, though. So thank you, everyone, for playing. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you had fun in this non-canon side dip into the Plus Ultra campaign.
Mimi,
By way of Mo School for Gifted Youth. Tonight, I was joined by a bunch of awesome people, including Beth, Ellie, and Io. Who would like to beep a thing?
Io's mom writes books, and you can get them at elizabethmccoy.com. Well, you can't get them right there, but it will link to all the other places you can get them. And I'm recently, okay, so Smashwords, which is the one I was using, merged with Draft to Digital, and Draft to Digital ships to Hoopla. And Hoopla has a library service where they can partner with libraries, apparently. And I checked it out on mine. I can get 4 Hoopla books per month, by which I assume that means that my library, my local library, pays Hoopla a small amount per checkout. Which means that Hoopla will pay me will pay Draft to Digital some amount, and then it'll get to me. So I will possibly get, like, per checkout, or at least per month of checkout. I may get paid per checkout. I'm not sure. So please do some checkouts through Hoopla if you're hearing this, because that will give me more data to figure this out, I hope, and find out what cool amount this is. And in any case, if you go through there, it's legitimate. I get paid. You get to read it for free. Everybody's happy. And speaking of things that make people happy.
Cookies.
Cookies can make me happy. Yeah, I could do some cookies as well.
But primarily if you make them yourself. Just say no to third-party cookies.
No, I hate cooking, so it's third-party cookies from me all the time.
Well, if someone you know gives it to you, then it's a second-party cookie, and that's okay. But also, AaronBSmith.com is where we put all this stuff. So you can go to AaronBSmith.com/cogwheel to get all of these podcasts that we do, including Plus Ultra, including GURPS Wars, including a D&D campaign that's been going on for over a year since I said we were going to end it, because plot. Fun. Yes. You could go to is.ambysmith.com/@cogwheel to follow us on the Fediverse. And not on the same website, but if you go to patreon.com/cogwheelgaming, you could help us keep the lights on, along with other illustrious patrons. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Shan Shen. Thank you, Walter. Thank you, Liv Droman. And thank you, Patron Emeritus Cindy. And until next time, this is Crash saying, Liberty Gibbets! Good night, everybody.
Good night. And also meet me.